Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to all of you and welcome to this session where we take a closer look at the fundamentals and the innovations that are shaping the insurance market globally. We live in what is a very transformative age, an age of change. Traditional insurance business models are being challenged by new thinking, new competitors, new ways of working, and of course, entirely new challenges that were unforeseen. Insurers are already under pressure to change, and the next wave of macro and micro changes, both global, local, or even industry and market specific changes, promise increasingly complex risks. Currently, unprecedented demand for effective ways to provide resilience in these uncertain times that have engulfed us all. Insurance leaders need to seize the upside of this disruption and anticipate and adapt to these emerging needs. And to better understand how we can face these many changes and these many challenges and prepare for the opportunities of the future, we have with us Kannan Amaresh, who's Senior Vice President and Global Head Insurance at Infosys. Karan, thank you so much for being here with us at the Economic Times Insurance Summit, now in its 7th edition. Let's get things started. I had a question to begin with. I want to pick your mind a bit and ask you what impact you see of COVID on the global insurance sector. And do you think that India's response to managing business in this time of crisis is at par with global standards?
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me for this conversation. I think if I can say that COVID-19, nobody would have probably predicted the kind of impact we have seen in the last 9 months, and it continues. Hopefully, we will see post-vaccination. There will be a lot more data to analyze what happened. Focusing on the insurance industry and the resilience around the COVID-19 issues the industry has faced. Let me give a quick view to start with the impact because of COVID. The first and foremost you would see is there's been a gradual reduction on the top line, because if you think about insurance industry, it's tagged with the economy. And as we have seen, the US economy has gone down in the first 2 quarters of this year. So the premium reduction is the first issue every insurance firm is dealing with. The second is, of course, as a consequence of risk going down, because if you think about in a non-life risk, generally everything is going down. So to that extent, we expect the claims also to be lower than what it used to be. So that's the second point. The third and most important one actually is really the customer experience. So if you think about it, every single individual, you and I, are affected by COVID. So we all want to check what is being covered, what is not covered, what's going on in my insurance coverage. And on top of it, as you've probably seen in the US, the unemployment has also gone up because of business disruption. So customer experience became a paramount importance. Continuity of businesses became a paramount importance for almost every player, not just insurance industry, you would expect across the entire industry. But the key thing for insurance is, insurance is not the leading edge in adopting technology. We all know that. There's been enough written about how insurance industry is kind of somewhere in the middle of the pack, if not the laggard in adopting technology. But with COVID, it got tested in a big way, because insurance, even in the US, it's a very physical agent-client relationship discussion oriented, and then you kind of sign up to services. So that got disrupted with zero physical interaction. So the customer experience, in my conversation with many CXO, was the first and foremost investments they had to make. And to many extent, they also had to do a lot of patchwork, as you would expect, right? Because they have to continue the business. Right. So they have to invent almost on the fly as to how do they actually make sure that the customers get uninterrupted services. So customer experience went through some really big anecdotal stories you will hear, across the globe, actually. And then there are two other specific points I want to cover. Is of course, because of COVID, there are specific segments within the industry which got impacted, which had a rippling effect on the insurance. For example, global travel, as we all know, is a big business for insurance. So obviously, global travel went down to almost near zero. And if you look at US, the domestic travel is one of probably the most the number of travel that used to happen. But so that travel insurance has come down. Combined with that, you will imagine the whole hospitality industry, was shut down, has had an impact on insurance. So there are some specific pockets where the impact has been much more. And the last but not the least, I think the business continuity also focused around the employees, health and safety of the employees, and the extended ecosystem. And I have seen that most of the insurer, if not all of them, has really put that focus for sure, because I think you can possibly argue that insurance industry understand the risks better than anybody else, considering their main job is about risk and how do they mitigate risk. So that's what we have seen in the global arena. But reflecting on in India for a moment, if I think about it, I think India follows the broader financial service, what has been going on for insurance specifically. And I think digital adoption, I feel that even in India, it's kind of taking off in a big way, thanks to many investments in payments, the UPI, the Aadhaars, and all of that. And recently I was discussing how there are some insurance firms actually issuing life certificates digitally in India. So that's a big plus. If you think about it, that's one of the newest thing. How do you actually adopt technology? On the second part, on the India side, I think one of the biggest plus we have had is the working from home. As you would imagine, India is also a big support center for global insurance firms, not just insurance, pretty much global industry. The working from home policy, in conjunction with working with our global clients, I think that's been a big plus, both from a regulation, government, as well as now I think they've regularized that as well. So those are all big pluses, I would say, as we look at the COVID impact.
Right. So, switching over things a little bit over to the tech side of things, what are the major global tech trends you've seen that are exciting, that have served to reshape the insurance landscape?
Yeah, that is of course our sweet spot, right? So we've been looking at this business, more from a technology lens. To some extent, maybe it is a little bit tinted towards technology. But if I look at it, there are a few industry, let's say titans, who both from banking or from insurance, who typically have said to the market that we are a technology company in the business of banking or insurance. But that is true. With COVID, I think it is getting tested even more. As I said before, the first and foremost is customer experience. Today, everything has to be digital. If you don't have a digital focus, if you don't think too much about how do I actually make sure our customers are centric to our success through digital environment, right? So digital interaction or digital technology is definitely, really tested through COVID. I think there is obviously a meme going around saying, who's been the CDO of your organization? So, of course, everybody says the laughable COVID-19 is really the digital transformation of every enterprise. So that's true for insurance. It's not changed. So let me just give a few examples from based on all the conversation I've had pre-COVID, at COVID, with all our clients. The first and foremost, if you think about for customer experience, is really the speed. So you can try this with any industry, but more so in insurance. For example, as a customer, you want to know, okay, what's my coverage, what's my policy, what's my riders, what are the do's and don'ts. So if you think about it, the speed of service is the most important one. And that too with digital, basically the COVID has pushed everybody to focus on the digital, right? So speed of service. The second is the accuracy and the data. So, for example, if I query saying, "Hey, I want to know what is my premium to be paid next month," the data has to be accurate, what I get back, and matching with what I have as a policy. So if you think about customer experience, there are two pivots to that. One is the data, and second is the speed. And the speed, in our view, is really about the cloud adoption, because if you think about it, most of the insurance from starting from the West, US, to all the way to the East. They all have grown through acquisition. They all have legacy tech, and they've been investing in data and cloud. But this COVID has really pushed them to the fore. So customer experience, data, you have to have a very good data strategy. You have to have a very clear understanding of how do you actually use the data to provide analytics, provide new products, all kind of stuff happens through data. And then of course the cloud. Um, the last two I would say is, so basically customer experience powered by data and cloud. Let's say that's the first segment. I would say that's where the maximum investment is going. The second bit is
Right.
really around, let's say, the much touted AI. Here I would borrow what we have recently launched as applied AI. So the AI has been, I think we've seen a proliferation of AI technology, both open source and local, as in, sold by the product vendors. But what is really focus is, if you want to have a better application of AI, it just has to emanate with your customer experience, be it product selling, be it your experience, be it your retention, be it. So you have to apply the AI to ensure that the customer experience is actually getting richer. So you don't buy an AI for the sake of AI, but you have to really apply it to see where you want to take it, right? So that's the second bucket I would call the investment bucket, where most of the insurance firms are, definitely spending money, but to get to the scaling effect, we got to wait and see. The last bit I would say is the so-called insurtech and new age player. I'm sure everybody is worried about, what's going to happen to all these big tech getting into insurance business. So we just recently saw Amazon getting into pharma in a big way, online pharma. So that particular, let's say, the fear is real, because if I think about personal life insurance, somebody like Google or Apple can get in a massive way, because they have access to technology and their ability to access to data and cloud, and introducing new products and services is not a big deal. And then of course you have these insurtechs. I think you've seen a few of them very successfully, getting listed, like Lemonade, and there are a bunch of more insurtechs coming into play. So this bucket, the traditional insurers need to look at more like collaboration and competition together, like co-optation. So you got to figure out what makes sense for your company or your enterprise to relook at your strategy around the new tech or the insurtechs, right? The big tech and the insurtechs. See how do you co-op the model, and you will feel that that will be the success as you look forward, because those are the five things I would say which you need to work on. Just to recap: customer experience powered by data and cloud. Then you look at applied AI, and then you look at the insurtech and the big tech, how you can co-opt them rather than fear them. Figure out how it pans out.
As a parting question to you, sir, you've worked across regions, you've handled multiple portfolios in your time as a professional. What would your mantra be for regrowth, or to try and return to some kind of a growth trajectory for insurers across the world?
That's a great question. See, it's actually, growth is constant. If the economy is not growing, I think, we have problems at the government level and, at all levels, quite frankly. So when I look at growth as the first pivot for any industry, and more so for insurance, especially coming out of COVID, hopefully, I actually did a point of view about 6 months back. I've been discussing with CXOs of insurance industry globally, and I was trying to, figure out what is that they are most obsessed with, starting with the CEO and the board of the insurance firm. And it came to me that, the point of view is called understanding buyer's mindset. So the first and foremost there is the growth lever, if you will. So when you look at the growth, there are three aspects to the growth every CEO and CXO was focused on. The first and foremost is what we call the, growing the market share through business value chain. Like, what do I sell? Who do I sell to? How can I increase that, right? So as COVID has given, there is a lot of stress on the business value chain, right? So most of the products are sold through agents, advisors. So how do you actually, jump over this whole physical interaction or the localization effect, right? So growth is definitely a big focus there. It is also a place where we are seeing forward and backward integration. For example, books of assets are being bought. I think recently Cigna sold its book to New York Life, and there's a lot of such examples, especially in the US. You will see a lot of these assets being sold back and forth. So the M&A activity, I see that as a big growth lever as well, as part of the business value chain. The second one is really around regulatory. So there are some regulations that will allow the so-called players to either move forward, move backward. Like for example, I think again it is public knowledge. Aon acquiring Willis Tower Watson, so it is under a regulatory scrutiny. So you will look at that. The regulation will actually enable players to take big bets, if you will. Okay. The last is really the technology. I think we've spoken enough since the beginning about technology, and technology is a disruptor. So you can access market which hitherto you're not been focused on. You can aggregate, you can disaggregate, you can do lots of stuff with technology, and I find that as a big growth lever. So these three taken into all is really where you see the growth engine coming from. For example, especially new products if you want to launch, speed to market, all of that is enabled through technology. So if you think about that, I think that's really where you will focus on more and more. In that context, I would say focus on digital interactive technology, focus on expanding. So it's almost like technology first, then how do I sell more to my clients and how do I make their experience much better. So the growth is going to happen only through that. And of course, the second is, as I said, the M&A focus and how do you actually enlarge on your focus. So it's almost in reverse order when you look at the CEO, CXO's focus. How do I put technology as the core pillar for growth?
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Amaresh, for giving us your time, for being so generous with your wisdom and your myriad perspectives on all things insurance and innovation and technology and the way forward for all of us in these tumultuous, crazy times that 2020 really has proven to be.
Thank you.
So yeah, with that, we come to the end of this session, which was, I think, a fascinating conversation with Mr. Kannan Amaresh. We talked a lot about everything to do with innovations in insurance and the way forward, growth levers, data, the importance of speed, accuracy, and all of that. And I hope that all of you have got a lot of food for thought and some major takeaways from this conversation that we had. So thank you for tuning in and stay tuned for the rest of the Economic Times Insurance Virtual Summit.